My desire on this channel is to be real with my audience so that you know who I am as a person, not just a musician. Because I think there's so many artists out there that will post their content and their final result, their concerts, their successes, the competition wins or the record label signing or, all the big things. And that's all we see. And it can give sort of this impression to the rest of the world that they're superhuman and that essentially there's those people and then there's everyone else. And it kind of makes them feel like they're special people. There are things that are probably special about them, but that's not the complete person we're seeing. And I just don't want that to be me the more I've been reflecting on it. So this video is probably not gonna be that easy to make because I wanna talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly on this channel. And today's all about the ugly, or at least between bad and ugly. And it's my ugly. It's not just general ugly in the music world, though it absolutely applies to that. But I think it's something that needs to be talked about because this is how we grow as musicians and artists, is dealing with our pain and our struggles face on. And that's what my mentors would talk to me about all the time. If you don't talk about it, if you don't deal with it, it overcomes you and it never gets better. And there's people that coast on that for decades and never improve. So I'm here to talk about everything that makes me uncomfortable, how I have lied, how I have been jealous, and how I felt really insecure in this journey as a classical pianist. And it has nothing really to do with playing the piano or being in the classical world. It has everything to do with rising to the top of any field and the desire to do that and what comes with that. And so I'm going to use an example that just happened last weekend, but it's sort of a repeated thing that's been throughout my whole life. And, my hope here is that people will hear it and be encouraged to face these qualities in themselves and to be more open to friends, to colleagues, to the music world, or to your own field, to address these issues so that they don't overcome us as people in a community. So here we go. The worst parts about me, or at least some of them. Last week I was at a party, I guess piano party. I don't know what else to call it. We were just all playing for each other to get ready for a recital with my students. And somebody asked me to play the Chopin Third Scherzo, which is a work I don't really know. I happen to be playing the second one right now, and that one I know really well. And I think he might have meant it sort of as a joke, like, oh, play that one, why not? Because he knew I knew number 2. And I had an opportunity right then and there to tell the truth, but I lied. And the lie was that I had never played the piece or looked at it or sight read it or anything before. That's not true. In my teens, I don't know, 16 or 17, I was 17, actually, I remember. My teacher assigned that piece to me and gave it to me to work on, said, let's try this one. And I worked on it for about a month, maybe 2, I don't remember. Ended up being like, I love it, but there's just not time for it right now. Let's put it on the shelf, come back to it later. So I had read through it. I had kind of worked on it. It was definitely not recital or performance ready, but I knew the piece. I knew the key schemes. I had done a decent amount of work on the coda. The patterns were in my fingers. And so it's now been almost 10 years since I've practiced it or even like read through it. So it's definitely not a piece I could just sit down and feel amazing about. But he said, well, play it for us. I'm like, all right, I'll sight read it. Sure. And I got cocky. So this is also about pride. I thought, if they think I'm fully sight reading it, I'm going to kill it because of course I'm going to make mistakes, but I feel like I could kind of get through it and do somewhat something with it. And that was my opportunity to tell the truth and say, hey, I know it a little bit. It's not a piece I feel comfortable with performing, but sure, I'll play it for you guys. And I could have had just like a relaxed, calm demeanor, been totally normal and had some fun and been a blessing to those around me. Nothing wrong with that. Mistakes and all, own it, move on, totally fine. But I thought, if they think I'm fully sight reading, then, they'll forgive all the mistakes and they're going to think I'm on this level that I'm not. So that's what I did. And I read through the whole piece, and it actually went fairly well, better than I expected it to go. And it floored people, and they were all blown away. And I came home that night and felt absolutely terrible. more trashy as a human being than I have felt in months, maybe years. I mean, I don't know if years, like that's an exaggeration, but it was definitely a bad night. And I was like, I got to make this right. It's not okay to behave like that and to think like that and to let people develop a view of you that's not true. This sort of star-stuck thing. So here's everything that was behind that decision. It goes without saying that was a wrong motive and a wrong decision, but I want to break down the why, because that's who I am. I figure things out. I'm like, why did I make that choice? Why am I the way I am? And I think really identifying these things is the key to overcoming them. So there's a lot going on here. One of them is that I am deeply insecure about my piano playing. And I think because it's actually really even about skill or the lack of skill. For me, it's just simply this unbalanced view of what perfection is and isn't. And I'm insecure because I've put so much time into it. Almost 30,000 hours have been spent thinking about music, practicing music, performing music, listening to music. Maybe above 30,000 by now, since starting the piano at age of 12. I'm 26, so over 14 years, you do the math on the average. I've had my fair share of 8-hour practice days back in the day. So a lot of my life, probably rough math, probably at least a quarter to a third of my life has been spent with music. And so it goes without saying, I'm very invested in this. And because of that, when somebody doesn't see what I think is my value, I take it personal. And I know in my head it is absolutely not personal. It's really not. It has nothing to do with who I am. It's just, it didn't move them that night, or they weren't impressed by it. And that's hard to take, because for me, my playing is personal. I put my heart into it. My mind, my soul, my time, my energy goes into those performances and everything I think and teach and try. And so when it doesn't get received the way I would like it to, it feels like an attack towards me, and it's not. So it's this unfulfillment, it's a lack of contentment in where I'm at and who I am, and like if it didn't land. And similarly, if it does get received, it goes to my head, because I'm like, yeah, I did that. And it's like, no. I did in a way in that I put the hours in and I did the hard work to get to a certain level. But what I don't like that comes with that is this inflated sense of self-worth. Like, just because I can play something really well doesn't mean I'm a good person. That one quality on its own, because there are great musicians that are terrible people. So it doesn't mean that just because of skill, I am that. And that's so adamantly against who I am, actually. For those of you that don't know, I'm a Christian, and my moral code is all against things like this: pride, jealousy, inflated ego, putting others down, comparing to others. Like, none of that is biblical, and none of that is what I believe in. I fall into those traps, because I think we all do as human beings, but I'm fighting it all the time. And I think that's just really my goal as a Christian, as somebody who wants to follow the teachings of Christ and have a walk with him. And, I totally know not all of my followers, probably most of them, are not Christian. So I don't expect you to be able to relate with me on that level. But I think even on just a general level of, this sort of unspoken moral code, most of these things are not seen as good habits to have. A lot of us have them, but then you see it in someone else and you go, man, he's arrogant, or he's talking about himself all the time, and it's not fun to be around. I had a teacher who would do this so much that all of his students weren't really sure if they were being complimented or if he was complimenting himself. And he would say things like, "You sound world class because of my training," and all these sorts of comments that ultimately just led back to him. That it felt like he was pulling the attention off of everyone else, no matter what was happening, what the subject was, even when it didn't involve music. And it was just frankly soul draining to be around. And I told myself when I was studying with him, first of all, I needed to get away from him, but also I just never wanted to become like that. And yet I see moments like what happened last weekend coming in. They've happened time and time again during my teaching, around my friends, around my teachers. I've been like, I'll have to a little show off that I know this piece and like make a little reference of it real quick or something. And it's like, or comments online, when I've commented on other people's performances, I've done the same thing. I've said things like, "Oh man, yeah, when I studied this piece, I noticed some of these details too." And like, I won't like put somebody else down, but I'll often try to make myself the center of the attention when it just doesn't belong. And again, it's just insecurity. And that's why I'm talking about it, because it's like, I don't want to look back and think, I never did anything about this, and I'm still 35 or 55 or 80 and still dealing with these things, because I see these issues popping up in people of all ages. It's not like you just automatically mature as you get older. And it's such a turnoff to me, just seeing that people never overcame it. So that's a lot of it. And it's also just jealousy when you really break it down, because I'll often see somebody with a skill I don't have, and I'll envy that skill and I'll want to have it. I don't even know why. When I actually think about it, like, why is that important? I've known people that can sight read as well as I was pretending to sight read last weekend. Actually, even better than that. I've seen somebody sight read almost to perfection a very difficult piano concerto that for sure she didn't know before, because it was modern and it actually was unpublished at the time. And she was reading it for like a composer, and I was like, yeah, that was pretty darn accurate based on what I knew of the work. And we all got a chance to see the score afterwards. And I was just mind blown. So it's like, people can sight read that well. And I've been jealous, thinking like, man, all of us music colleagues were like envying and talking. And really, I'm not jealous of the skill. I'm jealous of the attention that the skill produced. And that's a problem. I feel like maybe that's even a bigger problem. If it was just like me personally wanting that skill and that's it, well, that's one thing. I still need to work on that. But when it comes into a sense of, I want the accolades that this person got when they showed that skill, that's a problem. And it's something we all need to overcome, and not just overcome, but absolutely run the other direction from, because it's just negativity that destroys character and community and relationships, and it destroys the music community. The music community is full of this elitism and comparison, and he's better at this, she's better at that, and this back and forth of measuring the wrong kind of success. So yeah, it's just, these things are not helpful, and they really take down what it really means to be a musician, which is to just simply share the love and the joy that music gives us all. And again, as a Christian, I see music as a gift God has given us, that God has given humankind to enjoy the beauty of and just lift our moods and our souls. And this comparison and elitism and backstabbing and lying and everything goes so against what it's supposed to be, that I want to do everything I can to not be that. So there we go. I've probably rambled on a little too long. But I hope that this video is helpful for some people that have had these thoughts or these feelings or these temptations to act or be a certain way. And, I'd love to see some engagement in the comments. No judgment here. Certainly not for me. I just aired out my laundry for 15 minutes. So if you've struggled with these things, let me know. Let's talk about it. Let's overcome this thing. So thanks for watching. Bye.